You said in your email, "Hi Paul, could you please explain what you refer to or mean when you said, 'I feel like I understand you because I've been there, but for me that fell away and I'm seeing things quite differently'?" When there was a realization in my life, and back then I was about 30 years old, and there was this realization that thought had created what I call the thinker of the thought. It created the idea that there was somebody that was thinking the thoughts, and that somebody thought it could observe thoughts and pay attention to thoughts. It had the power of observation, awareness. But there was an awareness or a seeing that came in and revealed that that was just thought trying to see thought, and it couldn't see anything. It couldn't see that it was dividing itself as it tried to pay attention to itself. There was just blindness. The thinker of the thought was totally blind. But despite that movement, there was seeing that. There was a seeing that came out of nowhere that I didn't know exists. So there was an awakening, if we can use that word. There was an awakening to a false self, which fell away. Thought in that moment was put in its place by something which seemed to be outside the thinking process. At that point, it was very fresh, and all I knew was that there was this seeing that revealed the truth of who I wasn't. I had a friend at the time. He was very close to me, like a brother. And he pointed to, he had read the Upanishads and all that stuff. He says, "Don't you realize that that seeing is your true self? That's essence. That's awareness. That's who you really are." And there was an exploring that and the curiosity about it. And that seemed very true. Now, before I go further, I should say that despite what happens and what follows, the fact that the false self was put aside does not change. That's not changing. That stays put aside by this, what we're calling awareness. And as time passed, it seemed as though this awareness was not coming and going. It was permanent. The thoughts and the feelings and all the emotions, etc., was all coming and going in this. But this awareness was unaffected by whatever was happening. It was just a witness. It really didn't care about what was happening. And that's a place I think most people are in the non-dual community when they wake up. There's this seeming understanding that there's this permanent awareness, and that's the essence. The body can come and go in it, but it is permanent. And I am that. I am not the body. I am not the thoughts. I am not the feelings. So there's kind of a transcendence there, an identity which started to become very obvious as time went on, is that there was an identification there with that capital S self. As I got more and more curious about my situation, or how there was a seeing things, and kept questioning, there was the realization, hey, this is just an identity. I gave up one identity and took up another identity. As I looked at this, there was further realization that what was coming and going was not separate from this thing I called awareness that was not coming and going. The awareness was being and arriving as what was coming and going. The coming and going wasn't appearing in awareness, but awareness was appearing as coming and going, as the body. That changed things quite a bit. There was a realization that what was coming and going and what wasn't coming and going was not separate at all. The awareness was coming and going as much as what was coming and going. You couldn't separate it out. And the more I looked into it, or the more there was a questioning and a probing and a curiosity, different things started to open up. It seemed to become clearer and clearer. So I'm going to make a somewhat of a leap here and bring us right to the now, where this is all happening. And that now to me is all potential. I don't know what that is. I have no idea. It's not nothing. It's not all potential. I don't know what it is, but there's this now where the past becomes the future, which never leaves the now. When there's an observer, then there's appears to be the observed. But what is observing is, as it comes in, is the observed. The observer, because of what it is, the observed is what it is. They are arriving as one, not two, together. You can't separate them. That is happening in this all potential. We can look at it as form or a particle appearing in space, or form appearing in consciousness. The particle can't exist without the space, and the space can't exist without the particle. The form can't exist without consciousness, and consciousness can't exist without form. They're appearing simultaneously in relationship as one, this experience, which we don't know what this experience is either. At least I don't, except as it appears. So that's how things have changed, through curiosity, openness, and questioning. Now, some people, when they have an initial awakening, they feel like all their questions have been answered. If you feel like all your questions have been answered, then you're no longer asking questions. You're no longer probing and curious and open. All your questions are answered. You know how this all is. And you just stay where you are. But that didn't happen for me. It keeps opening. And what I'm explaining now, as I probe and ask questions, could open up into something else. I could even go back maybe to my original place. Quotation marks around that word place. Now, I hope that answers the rest of your email.